What's up, guys? My name is Dom if you're new here, and this is Faith Family Homestead. Today I decided that I would give you another garden tour. I did one in February and March, and now it is the beginning of April, and I thought it was the perfect day to tour the garden and see what's changed. Yesterday we had a really bad rainstorm. It was supposed to be expecting hail or winds up to 60 miles per hour, also tornado watch, but nothing happened besides just like heavy rains, and wind did get a little heavy, but nothing to do damage. With that being said, we went ahead and picked up the garden, brought in all of my containers, just in case there was going to be potentially damaging winds. So today we brought back out my plants, all of my containers, and I'm ready to give you guys a tour. My family consists of me, my husband, and we have 4 children, 3 girls and 1 boy. Our son is the oldest, he is 14, and then we have a 4-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 9-year-old. We just moved to this property in the middle of October, and now it's the beginning of April, and we have completely turned this whole front side area into a raised bed and in-ground garden. We did all of this no dig style, which means that we put cardboard down the whole area, and then we either put the wood chips or we put raised beds, or we have log raised beds up at front, and then put soil on top. The soil we used was a mixture between compost, topsoil, peat moss, and then I added in amendments like Azomite, blood meal, bone meal, worm castings, stuff like that. At this back corner is a little still messy still, but I had got these, what are these called? These kiddie pools on clearance at the end of last summer for $2 each, and I planted my tulips in it because when it was time to plant tulips, I did not have all the space. So I planted my tulips in it, and I also planted garlic in them. This pool I planted ginger in maybe a week or 2 ago, so not much happening in here. But then I also had totes, which I planted elephant garlic, 2 other varieties of garlic, and then we even have cilantro that was from last season and sprouted in there. Since I am at the back of my garden, I figured we would start at the back with these 3 raised beds. This first raised bed right here, I planted in store-bought potatoes. So I bought store-bought potatoes, organic, and let them sprout in my house and then planted them here. This one is the same bed, is another bed of potatoes, but this was from potatoes that I grew last year in containers, and they had really long eyes. I did a video on it, and I planted them out here, and they seem to be doing great. On this bed right here next to it, I do not have anything planted in here, but I have out all my starts that are hardening off. I have cucumbers and zucchini squashes that are still coming up right here. And then I have peppers that need to be planted out. That's salvia. I have a tray of zinnias that's still popping up. Another tray of cucumbers and zucchinis and squashes, and some dwarf marigolds that I've already been placing out. The bed behind it is the same thing. I still have lots of plants, tomatoes, peppers, basils, all the things that still need to be planted out. And then when we go across, I have these Dollar Tree containers. I have a bunch of them that I planted in a bunch of different things. I planted in strawberries in some of them. I planted in herbs in some of them. Bush beans. This one has bush bean varieties in them. I have some that has sugar snap peas that are dwarfing, so they won't get bigger than or longer than a foot. And then I have other ones that just have herbs in them. And then my newest one that I planted was this one in the back that I planted dwarf tomatoes in all of them. So there's 10 dwarf tomatoes in there. All of that whole bed that you see full of containers is all containers of stuff that I potted up. We have some succulents, some lilies. I have elderberry plant. I have echinaceas. I have mint. I have lettuce, carrots, begonias. I have blackberry vines, raspberry vines. I think I even have a blueberry over here. So that's all of that. And then a tray of peppers that need to be planted out. And then again, 2 more trays of squash and zucchinis. When we swing back over along the fence, I have planted in perennials. I don't remember exactly what perennials I planted here, but I planted perennials here, and then at the back I planted some vining flowers, but like some sweet peas. It seemed like some died off, and then one didn't come up over here on this side. This is just a tray that I haven't transplanted out yet. These beds coming down are not planted in along the fence, but then I have these next 4 beds along the fence that we planted in pole beans going across them. So this one has just one up so far, but there's other ones that I see are popping up. This one has 4 of them showing already, but I see more. This bed has the most pole beans right here, followed by this one. I've actually been saving these last 2 beds along the fence to either put cucumbers in or maybe another vining flower or something like that. I thought about trying cucumbers. I thought about even have more pole beans, just something that I can utilize the fence. This is a 4-foot fence, and I figured why not use it. After this first bed of potatoes, then nothing's really planted in here until we get down to this bed. This bed I have potatoes planted in, and you can see some potatoes are popping up already. The same thing for this bed. I had planted this whole bed with turnips, but a lot of them died with the frost that we had, so I planted the remainder with potatoes as well. So we have lots of potatoes coming up. I do not have anything planted in this bed, but then on this one I have lots of perennial bulbs that I had got from Walmart, and I planted them all here like lilies. This is a weed. And then moving forward, I have a bed of leeks. This had beets in it, but no, Swiss chard, but the Swiss chard died during that really last freeze. So I planted my potatoes, and then I had leftover leeks. So that's what I planted there. Right across from it, I had lots of beets here. Some of them didn't make it, so and the calendula was planted already there. So I took the opportunity and planted in some miscellaneous flowers along with the beets that I just had left over and wanted to see. They was either gonna grow or die in the tray. They needed to be planted out, so that's what I did. The calendulas though are looking really pretty. Then in my cross bed, I have over 350 strawberries in it, but at the corners I have this is borage at the corners right here, one right here and one right here, because borage is supposed to be a good companion plant with strawberries, so that's why I planted that there. Coming back, I have nothing planted in these few beds, but when we get to this bed, I just did a video of this. I planted in spicy peppers here, and then these 9 or 12 right here, this row, these 3 rows are basils, and then I have a summer savory in the corner right there. So this is going to be my spicy pepper bed. My family does not really like spicy things, but occasionally me and my husband will eat spicy. So I didn't plant a lot of peppers, but I definitely wanted to keep them secluded away from all the other peppers. So I went ahead and planted them out, and we'll see how they do. I didn't mind sacrificing my spicy peppers and planting them out early and just see, but I'm definitely waiting on my sweet peppers. Then in this next bed, I had planted this whole bed with lots of poppies, but only like 5 came up. So I went ahead and transplanted some lisianthus that I had that didn't really germinate well. I also had some bells of Ireland and some other like straw flowers and stuff like that that really didn't germinate for me that good. So this is just like a miscellaneous flower bed. And then I have nothing in these beds. This long row right here, I put up 2 cattle panels, me and my husband. So it's 36 or 32 feet, and I'm going to be planting tomatoes here, but I haven't yet. This is has cardboard underneath it, and then we just laid down compost mixture. Then coming down this way, the first bed I have planted right here are parsnips. So I had sparse germination, so I went ahead and threw more parsnip seeds here. So we'll see about how it looks when they germinate here. Same thing with these 2 beds. I planted carrots in them, but when we had that freak last frost, it killed lots of my carrot seedling. So this is just the remaining, and I will definitely utilize these beds and add in more things. Maybe I'll plant some tomatoes on the back ends of these 2 beds. I have nothing planted in those beds, but I do still have leftover compost and topsoil. Oh my goodness, I just looked over, and do you see what I see? How this little overachiever strawberry that I just planted in already has a flower. And I'm going to leave it. That is amazing. Right across from the flowers, I have another raised bed of perennial flowers. So that's flowers that are going to come back every year. I know I have dahlias here, and I'm not exactly sure what else I have in here, but I know these are dahlias. I did plant dahlias from seed as well, so I'll have to find a place for that. And then in these 2 beds, I think it was a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, I had my friend's daughters over here, and they were helping me plant, and we planted a bunch of bush bean seeds that I had from the Dollar Tree. So this is like Bush Lake bean, and I don't remember the other names, but they're all bush varieties. And I used the square foot gardening methods where you can put 9 in a square foot. So this has lots and lots of bush beans. And I'm so happy with the germination that we've been having. And then when we swing right over this first bed, we have snapdragons. I had some snapdragons die in the corner here, so I went ahead and put in some of these pretty little flowers, alyssum. This is a purple and a white, and it just makes me feel so happy every time I look over here. So that completes our raised bed garden, and then I have this woven ground cover right here that separates the raised bed garden with wood from the log raised beds. These log raised beds are the first raised beds that I put in. When we first moved to this property, it was heavily wooded, and we had the whole property 2.6 acres forest mulched, and this area specifically had lots of pine trees, but it was closing in the driveway, so we definitely needed to move them because they was making the driveway this big. I almost hit one of them trying to squeeze in to the driveway. So I was looking at the direction of the sun, and I thought this would be a perfect area for the garden. We have other areas where a previous owner had raised bed gardens, in-ground garden, but it was very low, and so it always flooded over there in that spot. That area right over there where it's very green, and you see the wood or the logs, that is where a previous owner had his raised or his in-ground garden, and he had it fenced off, but it was very marshy, and you can see that that is like basically the only spot that has lots of green because it's very, very moist over there. That is also the side that I have lots of fruit trees. I have about 12 fruit trees over there. I have like 5 apples, a pear, 4 peaches, and 3 plums. I did go ahead and order about 16 more fruit trees from Stark Brothers, and they should be here this week, so that's going to be really fun planting those out. Lots of more apples, and definitely some pears, and I think I even ordered some plums. I know I ordered 2 cherries as well. So this is the first bed. This whole bed is filled with onions. I think I had counted 540 onions that I planted here, and I got these onions from as starts. I got those onions as starts from what is it called? Dixondale Brothers. Dixondale Farms, and I planted 4 varieties in here. They're all short day varieties because I do live in South Carolina, Zone 8B, and so that is the variety that I chose to grow, and they are doing great. I've already cut their leaves about 2 times, and they just keep growing back, and I think they're even starting to get a little bulb on them. We did move some soil from around them, so that is what that looks like. This is the first bed that I planted in. It's also the first video that I did on my YouTube channel of me planting this bed out. Besides my, the first thing I did was plant my, my blueberry plants. But after that, this is the first like vegetable crop that I planted up here. This next log raised bed I have lots of lilies in here. I have echinacea. I have what is this? Ranunculus. We'll have garlic. And I even have phlox. I planted phlox in here too. But I have garlic separating because then this goes to ranunculus. And as you can see, they are blooming and the colors are absolutely beautiful. Then at the end, I have garlic. I did an experiment where I planted garlic 2 ways, where they were soaked and not soaked. This was the soaked side, and then I have the non-soaked right there. And the soaked side took a longer time to germinate, so that was interesting. And this does have lots of weeds that I need to get in there and get and fertilize because they are looking yellow. Which brings me to this next raised bed, which has more lilies, because as I was planting the lilies, I had another pack that I didn't realize, and after I planted all of these lilies in this bed, I realized I had more lilies, and this bed had already been taken over. So, planted more lilies here, then it follows by garlic, and then I have my, I started my red onions from seed in November, and this is what they're looking like. And then I planted snapdragons here. The bed behind it, I had lots of brassicas and carrots planted out here, but a lot of them died during the cold snap, so I ended up putting a trellis up here and planting tomatoes along, and then I put the dwarf marigolds in front, and I left the carrots that were in here. I have celery that I left inside here, and this area right here is turnips that I left. And I bet you if I lift up these leaves, there will be caterpillars, because my other leaves that looked, yep, right there, my other leaves that look like this, there were lots of baby caterpillars underneath, which they only seem to be bothering these plants, even though I have like this kohlrabi and kales right here. I also planted parsnips in this bed. There's also beets in here, dinosaur kale, which feels lovely. There's kohlrabis in here, and there is a big radish that my daughter's trying to pull secretly. Right up here, I planted 8 blueberry bushes going across, and then behind it I planted a wall of perennial flowers. So we have daffodils, we have more phlox, we have hyacinth going along this whole fence. Then behind it I had some Dollar Tree sugar snap peas and regular pea seeds, and I wanted to use this fence, so I just put down some topsoil and added pea seeds. My girls and I, a lot of them germinated but then died during that frost, so we replanted. That's just an ant pile that I need to get to. So we replanted pea seeds. This one is doing the best. And we even did it down this way, which we can talk about this bed. This bed has, this is an artichoke, and then we have snapdragons, and then we have bachelor buttons. Then something that I just planted recently were these 2 beds of asparagus. So I had one bed full of purple asparagus and then the other bed of green asparagus. And I got these from 100 each from Johnny's. I think I got it from Johnny's. But as you can see, they quickly sprouted. Very happy with how they came up. And next year we will get to eat some asparagus. So this is what our puppy is doing, rolling in the compost that is out the garden. In this bed, we had the same thing. I had lots of brassicas planted here. A lot of them died or went to seed. So I took it out, put the cattle panel here, and we have tomatoes. The other trellis had indeterminate tomatoes, but this has determinate tomatoes. So since I won't be pruning these, I spaced them a little further apart. And then in the fronts of them, again, I planted dwarf marigolds. There's also lots of carrots here, carrot seedlings. And we have a broccoli that hasn't gone to seed. We have some radishes in this bed. We have a cabbage back here. I just broke that. Give it to the chickens. But that's cool. And then we have a rosemary right here in the corner. So that actually takes care of the whole garden right now. We have more rain. I just felt some drips, so I finished this just in time. We have more rain today and tomorrow. So I really won't be getting out here transplanting anything else until probably the weekend, even though I'm pretty sure we're past our last estimated frost date. Our last estimated frost date was April 2nd, but we had that last frost, I think it was the 26th or the 23rd, where it got down to 26 degrees. Since then, I've been watching the weather, and there has not been a frost since then. And I've been looking at the 15-day forecast, and there is not a frost anywhere in the next 15 days, which tells me that I think we're past our last frost day, which is why I started planting out things like those peppers and basils. We still have lots of work to do in this garden. We ran out of wood chips, so we still have areas like that area over there that needs cardboard and wood chips. I'm also, this back area that I'm sitting in, thinking about either putting in a greenhouse, maybe like a cattle panel greenhouse, or maybe just a glass window greenhouse. I'm not really sure, but we probably won't get to that until the end of this growing season, if I'm being honest, just because I planted over, or started over 100 varieties of tomatoes, and that was only about 30, I would say, tomatoes that I have planted right now, which is definitely a lot, but I want to get as much tomatoes as I can possibly growing. I know on this trellis that I'll have about 22 tomatoes, which would bring me up to about 50 tomatoes, but I also was thinking about either doing in-ground tomatoes, maybe along this fence. We also want to put a fence up to close in this gate. Right now we're using this chicken fence that we had extra just to keep the dogs out, because we did have lots of problems with our garlic right here that the dogs was getting in, and specifically our Great Pyrenees was getting in and digging. Oh my goodness, that was a wasp. Digging in the out the garlic, and so I replanted it, so we shall see how my garlic harvest looks. The sun is starting to come out, and I have some tomato trays that I'm hardening off that I need to bring back inside. So I'm going to end this video here, but thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today and just touring my garden, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.